Want to say hi to everyone?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
We'll flip the camera.
Oh, good. Hey, guys. I can't see who's on.
You'll be able to see we're telling your followers right now.
Oh, okay. Oh, here we go. There's a couple folks.
And then we're going to go like this.
Oh, there's Stops a lot. Hey, Stops. Oh, my God. He's my buddy. Okay, so now you're catching
I'm
up.
just adding us on here. Oh. Here, sorry, I'm going to grab this for a second, everyone. Outdoor org. And it's not liking this. Here we go. Here, hold this for a second.
Okay, we're getting situated here.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have to get on from this side.
We have a room full of students and cake.
Hello.
Yeah, so here's the cake.
Yes.
All right.
Look how bad of a job I was doing.
They're impressed with their cake cutting skills, which is basically none. They don't teach that in college here at Rhodes.
We're not a culinary.
No culinary majors in this situation. Yeah.
You request?
This is so. Oh, look at Sarah. Hey, Sarah. Ah, oh, I love this. Now I have to have my glasses so I can see who's actually here. Oh, look at you. Oh, this is so fancy. We're sharing. Oh, there's John Bogdan. Hey, John. Oh, this is so cool. Look at that. There's Kelly. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's Nicholas. Hey, Nicholas. Ah, this is so much fun. We got to do this more often. Oh, look at that. Oh my gosh. How fun is that? Sarah, thank you. Oh my God. There's Barbara. Hey, Barbara. I love this. Oh, I'm so glad we're doing this. There's Shannon. Hey, Shannon. Oh, it's so much fun. Oh, really? Oh, well, we got another Shannon. Okay. All right, so we're getting situated here. And Skylar, I think.
Tell us, is there an echo? If there's not an echo, we're good. I just want to make sure because we're on two phones that are right next to each other.
Maybe you can put yours on mute.
Mine is on mute.
Yeah, okay.
If we are echoing, please let me know.
You see anything?
No echo. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Perfect. We'll go
Do your
from
thing.
there. I'm going to flip this camera. And okay, we're going to start in just a moment or two.
Let me introduce my mom.
Oh, yes.
Here, let's see. I'm going to show you guys. Wait. There's my mom. Say hi, Mom. Let's see. So that was my mom. My my grandmother turns 106 on Friday, last Friday, but she didn't make it. She passed away on Thursday. So it turns out that whose birthday was also on Friday? Lucy. So you share the same birthday that my grandmother does. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, but she passed away just on Thursday. So, but she was 106.
Wow.
That's
Good
hard
life.
work,
That's
making it to 106, right? It's impressive. Yeah. Kelly says, hi, Mom. She says hi back. Okay, I'm going to give this back to you. Okay.
And in order to keep this less annoying, I'm going to keep the sound and video off from the Rhodes Outdoor organization end. But so that our followers can also join, we will be co-hosting live. So yeah, we're going to get started in just a moment.
Go for it. Yeah.
What?
Thanks for showing up, everybody. I have the absolute honor to introduce Chris Howard, who hiked the entire Appalachian Trail and is going to tell us about her fantastic adventure.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Oh, this is great. So I know we've already had this conversation, but for those folks on the line so they can really appreciate who I'm talking to, how old are your parents?
54. Almost 50s.
Yeah. And did I tell you how old I am? 53. 53. I started at 52 and I did the trail and I had my birthday on the trail.
Wow.
So imagine your mom hiking the Appalachian Trail. Can you see that? Yeah? Things change, right? When you start to really visualize and put it into perspective. So the fact that I did the Appalachian Trail at 53 years old, I'm kind of proud of that. I feel pretty good about that. Yay. So I think there's a couple of messages that I'm going to talk to you guys about today. We can totally get into the gear stuff because I know that you're all since you're from the outdoor club, you're probably all about the gear, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we're going to start the presentation. I do have a slide showing the gear that I packed, and we'll talk a little bit about it. But then towards the end, if the folks on the phone aren't gearheads, they can jump off. Does that sound good?
Sounds
so we'll
great.
get really detailed about the gear stuff at the end. Cool. And I do have pics of like my tent and some of my setup and all that good stuff. My cooking equipment, what I ate, all that good stuff. But for now, what I want to do is I want to focus on the lessons that I learned. And I think that there's a lot of lessons that we can learn about setting big, audacious goals. It's pretty cool, right? And all of us are about reinventing ourselves. And so even though, I mean, you're at this stage of life right now where you're creating your next chapter, but that's all it is. It's a chapter, right? You're never stuck. And I think that gives you, it takes a lot of pressure off, because you can create your chapter, but know that there's always room to reinvent. I just was talking about my grandmother who, she almost reached 106 years old. When she was 100 years old, she learned the company business or the family business, which involves very intricate finance at 100 years old. So it's all about reinventing ourselves and setting on these big, audacious goals and kind of having fun along the way. And that's what we're going to focus on today. Cool?
Sounds great.
Yeah.
One question, if people have questions, would you prefer they leave them to the end
Please.
Okay.
This is easy. And including the folks
Yes.
on the phone, let's have a conversation.
Perfect.
Let's keep it engaging, and let's, we'll just go with the flow because that makes it more fun, don't you
Sounds
think?
good. So anyone who has questions on the live, if you send them in, I will read them off at a good stopping point.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. You're so good. You're perfect
Problem.
for this. Yeah. Thank you for doing this for me.
No problem.
All right, so I have a good life. I have a really good life, and especially all by the definition of success. I am, or was, I suppose, successful. I have a good job. I was 33 years in biopharmaceutical research. And so I think there's a lot of neuro students here. Yeah, all right, go neuro. So we did a lot of clinical trials in humans, trying to bring drugs to markets. But we also had a big portfolio of oncology drugs, pulmonary, respiratory, cardiovascular, diabetes, all quite a nice portfolio. And my job was to oversee a team of 300 people who were trying to learn the business. And I gave them a growth path into becoming project managers to run these $500,000 or to $500 million dollar clinical trials, which was very complicated, involved a lot of project management, coordination of a lot of details. So if you're interested in that as a career path, then I can hook you up and get you involved with some of my old colleagues. So I was working for LabCorp at the time, and again, very successful, and have a nice retirement account, all the things. But I think that your generation kind of gets this more than my generation. But I think we know that there's more to life than working all the time. Would you agree? Yeah, I think you guys do already agree with that. And I was starting to feel a little bit frustrated. There was a lot of forces that was happening. Number one, I had built my department, and I got the ability to teach my executive team how to lead, and they could take it. They were ready, and they really didn't need me anymore. I literally worked myself out of a job. So that's cool, but then I got bored. I wasn't being challenged anymore. But then there was another thing. I was an Ironman athlete. Do you know Ironman? Yeah? Okay, so for those of you who don't, it's 140.6 miles all in one day of swimming, biking, and running. So you swim 2.4 miles, and then you ride your bike 112, and then you run a marathon afterwards.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so much fun. I loved it. Talk about chapters, right? So I got all the way to the top. I went to the World Championship. It was amazing. And then I tore a multifidus in my back. Does anybody know multifidus? Yeah, okay. So check out your biology, okay? So I will tell you what the multifidi are. They're right underneath the rector spinae. So I have a tear right here. And so the neural pathway goes down your rector spinae, down your spinal column. And then it's the multifidi that connect your core muscles to your extremities, right? So what it shows up as is this leg has like slow internet connection, right? And so this leg ends up doing all the work. And so I kept going because that's what I do. And I ended up tearing the Achilles in this leg who's doing all the work. And it was all the reason because of this tear here. So I still had that, but I can't do Ironman anymore. I can't run, and I really can't bike quite as much as I used to. So I was a little frustrated. That identity, part of my identity was lost, and that was very scary for me because I was this, biotechnology researcher, and I was an Ironman athlete. Take away Ironman athlete, who am I after that, right? So that was happening. And then, of course, COVID was frustrating for all of us. I think a lot of us kind of started to realize, like, all work versus the balance and all that stuff. I really worked really hard, 18-hour days, literally 7 days a week, doing business continuity for that. That kind of wore me down. And then I got melanoma. And when I got melanoma, I was like, you guys, I can't wait for retirement. I got to live now. This has got to happen. And so I went to a friend of mine's house, and he had a map of the Appalachian Trail, and I saw it, and it was like a bolt of lightning hit me. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to do the Appalachian Trail. Now, ask me how many times I've ever been camping before. 0. How many times have I pitched a tent before? 0. But I'm committed. I am going to, this is my room, by the way. So I'm a princess, right? I like the finer things in life. I'm not going to lie. I like it. I like it all. And I like to wear high heels and, wear makeup and, get all pretty and all those things, which you're not going to do on the Appalachian Trail. But I needed an adventure, and so I committed. Here's where I am. So I'm going to start with the lessons learned. So when you are ever in this kind of frustrated kind of place in your life, the first thing to do is just say thank you to it. Don't be afraid of when the doors close on you, because that is an opportunity. It's life saying, hey, this is the end of this chapter. You're about to do something awesome, because it becomes the momentum for you to push off and catapult into this next chapter. And sometimes you don't know what it is, but that's okay. Just trust who you are, that heck, you're here at Rhodes College, or Ivy's in a league of ourselves, right? And so you're already very strong. You're hardworking. You know how to strive. You already know all those things. None of that's going to go away. You just don't have a vehicle to express it at that point. So just trust and believe that when you're in that frustrating part of life, just trust and believe that you're going to make it and you're going to get to the other side. So when you set a goal, it needs to be a goal that scares you. It's got to be something that gets you really nervous inside, because if it doesn't get you nervous inside, it's not big enough. You're not going to grow. You're not going to stretch. And it's through that nervous energy, like really being completely over your head, that's where you learn the most. And that certainly was me, never pitching a tent before on the Appalachian Trail. Yay! So the Appalachian Trail, okay, so I'm talking to the Outdoors Club, so I think most of you know what it is, right? Do you know how many states does it go through? 14, yep, 14, and it's 2,200 miles. Now here's a bit of trivia for you. 1 year it's going to be 2190. So if you do some Google searches, you're going to see 2190. And then you'll see 2000, and then you'll see some other number. So it changes every year. And the reason is they reroute the truck. They reroute it for whatever reason. But when they reroute it, they're always adding on, which is not fair. So our official number was 2198.4. That was what it was this year. And there's a couple of news press releases that were saying it's 2190, and I'm like, I'm sorry, it's not. We did those extra 8 miles. So, but it's the climbing is a little bit of a surprise for most people. It is really hilly. There's a total elevation gain of 500,000, which is the equivalent of climbing Mount Everest 18 times.
Wow.
Right? It's crazy, crazy. So here's the trail. So it starts, can you all see it okay? So it starts here at the top part of Georgia. And what I did, I live in right outside of DC. Anybody from DC in this area? No? Okay. All right. So I live in DC. And so I took the train. It was a midnight train to Georgia, which I thought was really cool. I was, playing all the Gladys night. Yeah, it was pretty cool. So then after Georgia, you're only in Georgia for like 60 miles. And then you move into Tennessee, North Carolina, and you're right on that border. And you go through the Great Smoky National Park. P.S. I've got a lot of really strong opinions about that park, and it's not good. So we'll get into that when we talk about some of the rest of this. So once you're finished with those 2 states, you hit Virginia, and Virginia is the longest state that you'll have on the Appalachian Trail. It's 550 miles, which is 25% of the Appalachian Trail. Wow. Yeah. It's personally my favorite state. I thought it was really beautiful and very diverse in the topography. So, and it was relatively easy compared to some of the other states that you get into the north. So that's important to know later when you see some of the pictures. So we touch a little bit on West Virginia. The halfway point is really the psychological halfway point is in Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, which is about an hour from my house. And so what I was able to do is my neighbors picked me up, and I went home and slept in that gorgeous bed for 5 days. And everybody asked, like, weren't you worried about not going back in the trail? And I was like, well, kind of, if I can be honest. So then from there, you go on to Maryland, and then you go to Pennsylvania, another long state. So you cut through the corner of Pennsylvania, and then you hit on the border of New Jersey and New York. You really don't see New Jersey quite as well as you see New York. But you go right there, and then you hit the New England states. So then you go for Connecticut. You know this, right? Okay. All right. Okay. So you do Connecticut, and then Massachusetts, and then you head on up to Vermont. This is when it gets interesting. So you go to Vermont, and then New Hampshire, and that's the White Mountains up there. And then you hit Maine, and you go on to Baxter State Park, which is smack dab in the middle of Maine. You were in Maine forever. I mean, forever. It's 260 miles, and there are 260 very slow miles. So I thought it's psychologically, it's a really challenging state. All right, so any questions about kind of the technical bit? Yeah.
So you said your easiest state was Virginia. What was your hardest state?
I would say it's the easiest state.
Okay.
It was
your favorite. Which one was your least favorite state then?
My least favorite state. Oh.
To hike
Maine.
through. Okay.
Maine. Yeah. Maine is forgotten. I think that the people who manage the trail are like, well, good luck. You're on your own. There's no maintenance. There's no clear paths. That the blazes are very few and far between, so it's easy to get lost. And it's like somebody takes these big, huge boulders about the size of all of you combined, and like threw them into a big gully and said, "Go ahead, climb it." So that's what Maine is like. It's crazy. Yeah, and we'll get into some of these stories. All right. So I look pretty confident in that picture, don't I? I was not confident at all. Yeah, so, but you got to start. And I remember getting off that train, and I had my pack, and this was a short stop on the train. And when there are short stops, that means you have to be ready to get off. My pack was so heavy, I had the hardest time like taking it out of the seat and putting on my back and actually getting ready. I came this close to missing my stop because it was so heavy. But I got there, and so this is me before I checked in. So everything starts, you know, don't be worried about feeling like an idiot. I did feel like an idiot. I was an idiot. And you know what? Who cares, right? So be willing to laugh at yourself. It's going to be just fine. It's don't wait for perfection. You know, we kind of tend to do that. We try to be perfect and then go because we don't want to look like a fool. But trust me, looking like a fool, it really is very bonding. And I'll tell you a story. Well, I'll tell you a story right now. So there was at the beginning of the trail, everybody's really, you know, we're only hiking 8 miles or so in a day because we're kind of getting our trail legs, we're getting our joints accustomed to the heavy packs. And I'm like walked in and there was a shelter and there's a fire and these people have been there and they're clearly outdoors people. They were so experienced. They were on the logs and had this really nice blaze going and they had the rugged beards. None of you have beards. This is very unusual. Yeah, you're kind of starting a beard here. Yeah, just a little bit. But these beards were like legit beards, like ZZ Top beards, right? And they had, you know, they were wearing the Crocs. You know, all the hikers wear the Crocs, and they had the tie-dyes, like their shirts and clothes looked like, you know, it had been worn probably, you know, 30 days in a row without washing. They smelled that way too. And this one guy that was the leader of the pack, his tie-dye shirt said, "I've got weed for sale." Yeah. There was a lot there, yeah. So I walk in and I have my pearl earrings on and I have my nice polished white teeth and I walk in and I said, "Hi, how do you pitch a tent?" And they were like sitting there and just, you know, clearly just experienced hikers. And there's the leader, the one guy that had the shirt that says, "I've got weed for sale." His name was Woodstock. And he said, "Shit." He said, "I've been out here all my life, and I still don't know what I'm doing out here." And everybody started, "Ha, ha, 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 ha." And so they all got up, and they walked around the campsite, and they told me, "Here's the place. You need to make sure that it's flat. You need to make sure that you wish the leaves and make sure there's no snakes there. You need to look up and make sure there's no branches that's going to fall on your head." And they taught me everything that I needed to know. And that's the spirit of humans, is you can't judge a book, right? I'm sure they were judging me, right? You know, here's the girl with pearl earrings. But they were kind to me, and I'm very grateful to them for that. So don't be afraid to look like a fool. It just brings you together, and these people are still my friends. So it's pretty cool, right? All right, gear. All right, so here's a picture, and we'll come back to that picture, and I'll tell you all about the good stuff. That's my favorite piece of gear. So this is what I started off with, okay? Now, I told you I had a hard time getting off the train because everything was so heavy in my pack. And so I ended up having a pack audit. My pack weighed 34 pounds with all of this. I had a 50-liter pack. And P.S., you don't want anything more than a 50-liter. There's a 65-liter pack that you can choose from. Don't do that. You'll end up carrying too much. It's just the weekenders do that, and they're miserable. So limit yourself. You don't need this stuff. So everything with the big X is I ended up getting rid of altogether. And the stuff with the small, thinner white X's, that's the stuff that I modified. So the biggest thing that I learned is from being a triathlete to being a hiker does not translate. There is no, I thought for sure I'm outside, you know, working out for 16 hours in a particular race. Surely it's going to translate. It does not. And the reason is, number one, the clothes are too heavy. Number two, they hold water and they don't dry quickly. And then number three, they smell to high heaven. I'm telling you, they hold on. So I ended up getting rid of all of that gear. And actually, Nicholas is on the phone here. He took me to REI several times to find the right sequence of gear that fit. So I ended up with a lot of merino wool, and do not get nylon. A lot of guys at the REI will teach you to, nylon pants is the way to go. They don't dry. You don't want those. So you definitely want to stay away from the nylon. So other than that, let's see, some other big things. I did not need my inReach, didn't need it, because I have a GPS and I can show it to you on the phone afterwards. It's pretty cool. And then I had 2 stoves. I just need 1. Anything where there's duplicates, basically I got rid of. And I had way too many sacks. So I got rid of a lot of those sacks. A sack by itself does not weigh a lot, but after a while, a lot of sacks do add up. And everything's about ounces. So after that initial kind of bloodletting, if you will, my pack, it started at 29 pounds. But then as I got more experienced, I started throwing stuff away, just giving them to other hikers and putting them in these hiker boxes at hostels or at road crossings or something. And I ended up, my winter gear was 25 pounds and my summer gear was around 19. So light is good. You don't need the stuff. And I take that now, like I come home after the trail and I'm like, I don't need this, I don't need this. Oh, I'm getting this, I'm getting that. And I don't want any of it. So that's it. So lesson number 3, when you're setting big, audacious goals, is you're never alone. And certainly on the trail, I hiked the trail by myself, but I was never alone. Good case in point, all these strangers who were experienced hikers, they took me under their wing, and God bless them for being nice to me and not kicking me out. So here's a couple of pictures just to kind of get the feel for it. So if there's ever a fire or if there's ever water, that's where all the people congregate, and you can always make friends there. Here's a video of kind of the life. So it's going to turn around. You can see the bag hangs. I'll show it to you in a second. So there's the bag hangs. That's our food. And this is my tent here. Mom said it was messy. All right. Okay, I might have to, let's see if I can click again. It might start. There we go. And so you have these kind of experiences, which are super bonding. And so you share these moments together, and these relationships are super, you get really, really close. Here's and these are friends. So even though we didn't necessarily hike together, some people have tramlies, which are trail families, and they're like together the whole time. It's actually not advised because, you might get tired, but you might feel energetic. You might need to go to town and get shoes. You might, be trying to meet a deadline. So everybody's needs are different, and you'll fluctuate, and your nutrition will change, and your energy will change. And so it's always best just to go with what is best for your body. That's what's going to sustain you in the long term, and you'll be in this bubble. Has any of you done a race, like a marathon or a half marathon or anything like that? Okay, all right, so we have the token yes. So all right, good for you. So at the beginning, everybody's all together, it's kind of crowded, but then it spaces out. And then when you get towards the end of the race, you end up leapfrogging with the same people. And that those people is like, it's called your bubble. And so you end up hanging out with these same bubbles. And so you see these friends, and you might not see them for 2 weeks, and you see them and you're like, oh my gosh, it's a big reunion. And it's truly special. It's really so cool. Here's we're summiting Mount Washington. I mean, that's fun, right? Who wants to howl at the top of a mountain? Like, that's the coolest. So yeah. The other cool thing, and we've got Stops on the phone here. Stops is the ultimate trail angel. He is amazing, and he does all this stuff. There are people who, just for the heck of it, come out and they fill their cars up with hamburgers and hot dogs and beer and lemonade and potato chips. And the best thing is when you have trash bags, so you can throw away this trash that you've been carrying in the woods. Chargers for your phones, that's the best, because I've got this charger right here, but it's sometimes you start getting nervous about being out in the back country and running out of juice, and you got to have your tunes. It's really important out there, and you got to have your map too, because if you run out of your map, then that could be problematic. So these are pictures. Like this one guy, he showed up in the middle of the 100-mile wilderness, and this was like a logging road, and there was nothing. I mean, nothing. We saw nobody and then suddenly this guy in his truck, he pulls aside and sees us at a crossing, and he says, "Hey, you want some trail magic?" And I'm like, "Fuck yeah." And so he opens up the trunk, and I was so hungry. I was so sick of my food, and he had like these massive sandwiches and beers, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is the best thing ever." It was so good. This guy's making, he's making quesadillas. And then these guys, they were doing grilled. This is what we had. That's sausage on top of the hot dog. And then this guy right here, he had homemade frittatas and with coffee, and it was like literally in the middle of nowhere. So it's just these people are just go out of their way because they know how hard the trail is, and you're really empty. And when you see these people just giving you these gifts, it's just magic. It's trail magic, and it's the best thing. Stops, who's on the phone, Sir Stops a Lot is his real name, and he goes up and down the trail. So he finds these people, and he builds these relationships with them, and then he follows them up. So that's why I know Stops, and that's why he's here today. Hey Stops. So yeah, it's just really just you sometimes when we're in day-to-day life, people can kind of be nasty, and they have their own agendas, or they don't necessarily say hi to you. But when you're on the trail, it is a whole different place, and it is so romantic and just beautiful. People are beautiful, and the trail reminds you about how good humanity is. It's really cool. So, all right, so you're never alone. The other bit is when you have these big audacious goals, you want to set the big audacious goal, but then you want to set it aside. You want to forget about it because it's too big, right? If you think about your graduation day every single day, it's too big, right? It's like, and then you get frustrated because it's not coming. Who's graduating soon?
I'm the senior in the room. Right? I'm the only one, yeah.
But we have a couple freshmen, right? Who's the freshman?
Jealous.
Yeah.
We got lots of little crushies.
Yeah. Like if you when you're sort like it feels like 4 years feels like a million years from now, right? And sorry, 3.5.
Sir Stops a Lot says it was all truly my pleasure. My bonus was I met you.
Oh, he's my guy. He's so amazing. So good. And then my friends also, Nicholas, he's there on the phone, and he came and he rescued me from the treacherous trail that is the Smoky National Park, and he gave me a warm bed. He's a French chef, and he made me so much food, and it was like all like gorgeous food, and I'm like, oh my God. He was impressed at how much I could put down, and it's a lot. So anyways, good people. All right. So when you set your goals, right, you want to put them aside. Just forget about it for a bit. And instead find those magical moments and enjoy the process. And for me, not only did I have those amazing relationships that I built and this trail magic and these really happy moments that I showed you pictures of, but I also was just enamored by the beauty of the trail. It's so diverse, and so like every moment was really special, and every day, like you would see multiple, like there were some days where I would probably take over 100 pictures. So here's a special moment. I am right at base camp before summiting Mount Washington, and this is a front that's coming in, this kind of gray, and the wind is 70 miles an hour. It was so cold and so windy, and so this is my good friend and she's about your age. She's my trail daughter. And so that's my sleeping bag. And we just wrapped up and we just saw the sunset together. And it was just a magical moment. And the sun kept changing because of this front coming in. It was really, really cool. So more magical moments. So this is right here is actually in this Tennessee area. There's so many alpine forests. And when you walk on the forest, the needles are like really soft and it's really quiet going through those. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? It feels like a little fairy's about to pop out. Yeah, it's so cool. I think this part was in Vermont, and then this was in New Hampshire, getting more rocky. Isn't it beautiful? Just gorgeous. Yeah. And then do you know where this is? You probably know this one. Anybody? It's the most photographed spot on the Appalachian Trail. It's McAfee Knob. It's right outside of Roanoke. And that whole area, if you want to do a nice 3-day hike, go to, it's called the Triple Crown. And so you can do McAfee Knob, which is this. And then you go on this ridge. And then right at that tip right there is Tinker Cliffs. And which is all equally as beautiful. And then there's Dragon's Tooth too. So if any of you, do any of you rock climb? Do you rock climbers? Yeah, so that's really hot. Great rock climbing, like bouldering, because the rocks are kind of porous and they're kind of sticky. Me, I don't do that. It's freaking terrifying to me, but you'll love it. You will love it, yes. So here's some more. This is all in, this is Maine. This is on the Bigelows, which is the last big climb in Maine. This is right before Mount Washington, looking over at the presidential range. And then this is also in New Hampshire. I think I'm on Mount Moriah or Carter's, one of those. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah, and it's really, really cool because your feet kind of grips the rocks. But I go through the shoes pretty quickly. Anybody want to guess how many pairs of shoes I went through?
9.
Okay, you're saying 6. You're saying 9. You're saying 5. It's all pretty good. Yeah, 6.5. Yeah. And on the trail, you want to wear trail runners. You don't want to wear boots. Boots are bad for the Appalachian Trail because it's so wet. And it just holds on to that wet, and then it doesn't drain, so you get swamp feet. You know, it's not good. It's actually it can be problematic. Yeah, trench foot. Yeah. You don't want that. So you want them, but then the downside is the trail runners, they don't last very long. So mine lasted about every 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks or so, about 350 to 500 miles. You had to switch them out. So I wore Hokas all the way up until New Hampshire. And then from New Hampshire and Maine, I switched to Topos, which is a new brand. They're emerging, and I love them. And they're much more grippy on wet rock, so I felt more safe on the Topos. So I really recommend those. That would be something to look into. Isn't this beautiful? Now, I do have a story about this one. So when I was hiking at the very beginning, like it's an evolution. I felt like I evolved too. Being from, leading an organization of 300 people in biopharmaceutical, right? Leading all these trials, go, like I'm like taskmaster, got to get to this place and get to that shelter this day. And this was a point where I'm on Roan Highlands, also in Virginia, also quite stunning. And so I was in this big bald, so there's 3 balds, and the last bald is kind of extra credit. It's off trail. It's about half a mile off trail. And so I went up and I met this guy who is an older gentleman. He's a local, lives very close, and he does this hike on a daily basis. This is his exercise for the day. And he had this bottle of Lipton tea, and he was like, he kind of adopted me. And he said, there's a great stealth site right here. Do y'all know what stealth sites are? Stealth sites. So they're unsanctioned camping sites. So they're not where the shelters are and the official privy and the official, tent sites. They're like, you just find a spot in the woods and you camp there. Next day, you never know. Nobody knows that you're there. I personally like those better because the bears don't know that you're there. the bears know where the shelters are. So a little tip for you. So, so this guy, he sees me with his bottle of Lipton tea, and he says, there's a great stealth site. I really recommend it. It's my very favorite. And so he was so eager. He wanted to show it to me. And of course I followed. And he goes, you should stay there. I'm like, well, I don't have enough water. And, you know, I got to get to this tent site or this, you know, this destination for the day. And so he goes, okay, I understand. And so I started walking down, getting back to the Appalachian Trail. And as I get closer to the trail, I start thinking, what am I thinking? And I walked closer to the trail and kept going down. And I was like, what? I'm not in a hurry. Why am I in a hurry? Why am I doing this? It was habit. And I thought, you know what? And I turned around and I met that guy back up and I said, do you still have that bottle of Lipton tea? I'd like to take you up on it. And it turns out that it was the most magical night because I could see both the sunset and the sunrise within 100 feet of each other because the bald was just like, you know, very narrow, and you could have the most beautiful vistas. So this is me with my pack looking over at the sunrise. This is the sunrise, but the sunset picture is just equally as stunning, just gorgeous. So that was my transforming into like smell the roses. It's better that way. Here's another bald. Isn't that cool? This is right above the clouds. This is Big Bald. It's in Tennessee. You have a lot of these kind of open fields like that, and then the flowers in bloom is just stunning, just gorgeous. Lots of flowers. This is also on Big Bald. Isn't that gorgeous? So this is why you're out here. Yeah. But then there's reality. And I'm not going to lie, this trail is crazy hard. It is so hard. And I think the best way to describe it is it just strips you down of everything that you know, right? You don't even have your own name, you know? My name is called Phoenix Rising, and that's why the title of this is called Phoenix Rising on the Appalachian Trail. We've got stops a lot on the phone here today. Some of my other friends was, gosh, there's so many. Gadget, you heard me talk about Woodstock. We had Kenny, what was it? He was named after a movie star. There's just all in Top Knot because of her hair. Flight Risk because he left his job too to go do this is the name of his sailboat. The Professor, who's another good friend of mine. So everybody has these nicknames, but nobody knew that my name was Chris. Everybody knew me as Phoenix or Phoenix Rising. And so whenever I signed into places, I always used the name Phoenix. So, but in addition to that, you know, right now I've got my heels on, you know, my hair's done, I got my makeup on, but I had none of that. And in fact, I smelled to high heaven. I'll get into that story in just a second. And, you know, and so you're like, and so as you move up, you are getting tired, your body is breaking down. Right around 1500 is when I really started to feel this is not fun anymore. This is hard work, and so it just grinds you every day. It's the biggest obstacle course, and I'll show you why it's an obstacle course and some of these obstacle courses in the next couple of pictures. But what you end up doing is it shifts from this big fun adventure to how much do you really want it? And so the success rate for the Appalachian Trail is less than 25%. ATC, Appalachian Trail Conservancy, quotes 25%, but they don't take those statistics, I don't think, in a very scientific manner, the way that we are trained to do, right? No empirical data here. There's another company called The Trek. Anybody familiar, signed up to The Trek? That's a good one for you guys. It's a website. Great data, great vibe, all for through hiking. And so the Trek does a survey, and they say it's 20% going down. This year, we had a state of emergency. We had a hurricane. We had, in the summer, 61% days of rain. And the locals were like, I've never seen more rain ever. And I would not be surprised if it's less than 20%. We'll see how the data come in, but it's hard, and that people start giving up. So this is where it really matters. So when you're setting your big goals, just expect it, right? Don't be afraid. If you hold on and be patient, and remember your why. What did you set out to do? Then you're going to get through it. You will. Because you're being able to hold on to the friends, you're being able to hold on to the network that you've gathered, and you're able to hold on to the process and enjoy all the small moments, okay? So here's the mud, all right? So let's talk about the obstacles that we face. Oh, mud. I have a visceral reaction when I think about mud. Have any of you opened up a bag of rotten spinach? How about a bag of bad broccoli? Anybody bad broccoli? You open it up and you're like, right? You get that reaction. That's how your feet smell. This mud is decayed vegetation. And so when you go through it, this is not just an exception here. This is like states, miles and miles and days upon days of this, and I am not exaggerating. Every single day that I was in Vermont, it rained. Every single day. And every single day when it rained, the rain, because it's all on marble in Vermont, and it only has like this much, well, it depends. I mean, it depends on the spot, but the water has no place to go, so it turns into this, the entire state. And when you're finished with Vermont, you're thinking, oh, I'm finished with the mud. No, you're not. Oh, it just gets better. This one's in Maine. And so they do have these wooden planks that start, but you can see the condition of these wooden planks. It was like they laid them out in 1950 and forgot about it. So they're not good. So you'll step on these wooden planks and they'll flop you down and then you'll go backwards. I cannot tell you how many times I walked on those things and I could not, like, I slipped, I slept. I probably fell in the mud countless times, at least 9. So there was one point where I'm going from here to the end of this room, right? And I fell 3 times in quick succession. I was so pissed. And here I am, I'm in the mud is up to my waist, and I have it all over my body, smelling like rotten spinach, by the way. And I took my pole and I went, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. I was dying. And it was awful. It was absolutely awful. That's your day. That's your day. But I didn't quit. Not once did I decide that I was going to quit. So the other bit is now you have 2 pairs of clothes, right? You have the clothes that you hike in. Now it's merino wool, well-drained, right? Anti-smell-ish. And then you have your dry clothes, which you properly change into when it's time to camp. And that way you can maintain a little bit some of its sanity. P.S., because it's so humid and because it rains so much, it's never really dry. It's actually quite damp. So it's dry-ish, right? It's kind of dampish. So it's, after a while, it kind of gets in your nerves. So you have the next morning, you wake up, and it's time to put on your clothes again, your hiking clothes. But you remember what happened the day before? We fell in the mud about 3 or 4 times. And do you remember how that mud smells? Like rotten spinach. Exactly. So we have a choice, and I want to know what choice do you make? So your choice is, do you put on dry, muddy, wet, it's still wet, muddy, smelly clothes when it's cold? Or do you put on wet, smelly, muddy clothes when it's warm? What do you choose? Cold or warm? What do you do?
If it's cold, I would avoid the wet.
Okay, you go for the cold. Okay, all right. No, it's still wet. It's wet no matter what. The only choice is dry or wet, or dry. No, excuse me. Now I'm confusing myself. Cold or warm? Cold or warm? Okay, so I chose to put on the clothes, as nasty as they are, when it's warm. So I put them into a bag and I slept with them. Right? So it's warm. So when you put them on, it's dry, or excuse me, it's wet, it's muddy, it's smelly, but at least it's body temperature, right? So it's less awesome. But let me tell you, when you put those clothes into your sleeping bag, it marinates.
Oh.
And it marinates you in that smell of wet spinach. And so you're lying down and that smell is wafting from that sleeping bag. It's bad. These are hard days out there.
Arizona 2011 NN is asking, how long did it take you to forget that lingering smell?
Never. I am, and that's my friend Nicholas.
Okay.
And I'm forever, like, if I ever see mud, I'm going to go through like a trigger response. Like, I'm going to start shaking and say, I hate mud so much. Oh my God. That's it, honey. You got it. You're out in the wilderness. You are out. Yeah. You're happy to have the blow drowns cut. And even then, you're lucky. Yeah. There's some sections where it's just not that way. Some sections are really great. So the ATC is the governing body, and they make sure that the land is bought up, and so nobody's going to develop it. So that's their role as the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. The local clubs are responsible for maintaining the trail. If you ever have an opportunity to maintain the trail and join any of those Appalachian Trail clubs, please do it. It makes a difference. Making sure the blazes are nice and painted, making sure that the blowdowns are taken care of, and any kind of like bad drainage. I tell you, Georgia has the best volunteers. They are great. Shenandoah National Park, fantastic. But the further north you go, you're like, sister, you are on your own. Good luck. Yeah. So here's some of the conditions. Again, this is another summit. This is on, which one is this? This is Saddleback Mountain. You can see there's no views. Not fun. There are days where you have no views. You're hiking and you're sweating and you're toiling and you're falling in mud and you have no views. And it's fantastic. But you just remember, you're out here for a reason. I did have an umbrella, and umbrellas are cool. They're fine. If you go on Z-Pack, is that right, Z-Pack? They are a great resource for any kind of through hiking gear. They're actually the best. And they have a little clip. So you have your umbrella on your clip, and then you have both hands free for you to use for your trekking poles. So that was very common. And then here's this is in the Smokies, and we're all kind of gathered together. There's about 20 people that night in the same shelter. So you're sitting spooning your best friends who are equally as smelly, but the difference is you don't know them and they snore, and you're right, but they're warm and they're dry. Well, we're all dry together, so suddenly you're best friends, and that's just how it works. Hi, my name is Phoenix. Let's sleep together. Yeah, that's fantastic. So this is the Smokies. It's not really high elevation as it goes. If you're used to hiking in the West, you've got a lot of 14 plus. Out here, the highest elevation on the whole Appalachian Trail is in the Smokies. It's 6,600 feet. But it's enough elevation to get some really interesting weather. So we had a lot of sideways wind, cold wind, we got some sleet and some snow, as you can see here. It was pretty, but it was pretty miserable. And I had every single piece of warm gear that I owned, all wearing at the same time. It was pretty darn cold. Yeah. All right. So this is a hailstorm. This happened in Southern Virginia, and you can see the size of the hail is about the size of golf balls. He's calling me Phoenix. You hear that? Yeah. So it hurt, and that was pretty light, and then it came down about twice that hard. And in town, like we got into town later that day, and the hail actually blew out roofs and stuff. It was pretty intense, and we were in the middle of nowhere. We had nothing, so we just put our packs down. Luckily, we had our umbrellas, and that's how we stayed protected. But I got a couple bruises on my arms that weren't protected. So, it's you and the elements. I also got really sick. Twice I got sick to the point where I was worried. The first time, which is right here, I got norovirus. Anybody know norovirus? What is norovirus?
Stomach, right?
It's stomach.
Yeah.
And the whole works. Basically, you're like Mount Vesuvius, exploding from every orifice of your body. That's the best way to describe it. And your temperature, like high fever, and you basically feel like death. And that's how I felt. That day, I had hiked, I think I did like 23.5 miles that day. So it was already very dehydrated. And luckily I checked into a hotel that night. It was very fortuitous. And, but then sure enough, it hit me. I thought it was food poisoning at first. And, do you want to hear a funny story? I think this needs to be in a movie. So I'm, doing my business in the toilet. Luckily it was a toilet, and I flush it, and guess what stopped working? The toilet. Yeah. So I go downstairs, and I'm like barely, I'm only, surviving at this point. And there's only one guy at the desk, and this is hardly a, reputable hotel. And the guy says, I'm like, please, can you fix my toilet? I don't know what else to do. And he gives me the plunger. I'm like, okay, well, let's give it a try. So I go back upstairs, and I try to plunge it to no avail. So now I have the very full toilet and this plunger like sitting sideways like this listless. Meanwhile, I'm still doing my business. So what do I use? I use the trash can. What else are you going to do, right? There's towels, there's things. It is an explosion of every internal anything that I had going on in my body. So I go back downstairs, and I'm like desperate, please, we've got to fix this. This is just, it's getting to be crisis levels. And he said, well, you can move your room. And I'm thinking, there's no way in God's green earth I'm going to move my room. But I took the key anyway, because I'm feverish, right? I have no energy. I'm barely able to walk downstairs. So my room is 103, right? Or we'll call it 203. The room he gave me was 115 over there. So imagine I run over to room 115, do my business, come back 103, I go back to sleep. Oh, it's coming again. Go back down to 115, do my business, come back to 103. This happened about 6 times that night, right? So then the next morning, I'm in bed, just dead. Absolutely dead. And this really sweet lady comes to clean the room. And she opens up the door. She said, wow, you were busy last night. I said, yep. And I basically, was so tired. I did this. And she says, this is terrible. So she cleaned it all up for me. She got the toilet running again. She is a saint. She's an absolute saint. And then she says, 115. They had the same thing. Do you know who that person is? And I said, nope. So this right here, I got remember the fires? All the fires from Canada. There's 300 wildfires, and all the smoke came down. And I have asthma, but I thought the asthma was treated. So of course I don't have any medicine. And it turns out that I did get bad. My friend Shannon's on the phone. She took care of me while I had bronchitis. Thinking it was okay, I kept hiking, and I kept hiking, and I kept hiking until one day I was at a hostel, and she was burning smelly scented candles, and it triggered me, and it got to the point where I could not say the words, I cannot breathe. My mom was there, and I called her, and she was like, what am I supposed to do? But that was a really scary day. So those scary days happen. But you know how many times I thought I was going to quit? 0. Even with all of that stuff, even as hard as it is, I knew that the words I did not finish, because whatever litany excuses I've got, that's never going to enter my mouth. I am going to finish come hell or high water. And it was both hell and high water. So here's the bugs. And that's just this cloud of mosquitoes around you. And then there's like this, as you walk, there's ground bees. And yeah, so at any moment you could step on a hornet's nest and you'll get stung 18 times, which a lot of my friends, I only got stung once It's yeah, it's legit. And then you've got this too. Have you seen, anybody's done that hiking in the whites? Anybody? Yeah. Yeah. It's great hiking. It's beautiful, but it's also treacherous if you're not prepared, as the sign says. For those on the phone, it says, try this trail only, _ if you are in top physical condition, well clothed, and carrying extra clothing and food. Many have died above timberline from exposure, then turn back at the first sign of bad weather. So it is pretty legit. So our rock climbers, you'll love this. I was freaking out. So over here you can see, this is a friend of mine. His name is Sherlock, and you can see how you know how small he is in relationship to that. And then you can see there's tons of like these big slabs, and then you get really good at using the roots and the tree trunks to help you climb up or climb down. Now, if it's wet, the slugs also like those trunks. So there's several times where you like hold on to a tree, spin around, lower yourself down, and then you look at your hand and you have like 3 slugs that are dead in your hand. It's kind of gross. Yeah, but that's, you know. And then there's like lots of climbing, which is not my forte, but I did it anyway. And I survived, and I did not break any limbs. I'm happy to report. Yay. Yeah. All right. So snakes. These 2 are timber rattlers here. How many snakes do you see in this picture? A lot. There's 3. Yeah. And then how many snakes do you see in this picture? Yeah. 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 So they like to. They apparently. This is snake warmth strategy. Apparently, this one right here is eating a blue lizard. Isn't that cool? Can you see he's upside down? Yeah. And he's strangling, he's wrapping around this blue lizard. So a friend of mine took this as a video, and she has the whole video of grabbing the whole thing, which is pretty cool. Yeah. Oh, that's a black snake? Tons of them. They're everywhere. So I used to be afraid of snakes. I'm actually not afraid of snakes anymore.
Maybe I'll try you today.
All right.
I know, well, it's exposure therapy.
Yeah. Exposure therapy, yeah. So this one, actually, Nicholas will probably remember this picture. I was with him when I took these pictures of the 2 bears. And the bears are actually big raccoons. They're just hungry. So they're actually not, they're not dangerous. Everybody asked me, did you bring bear spray? No, it's fine. All you have to do is get your sticks and smack them into there, make some noise, and they'll run off. Except for this bear. This bear did not run off. He was hungry, and he wanted whatever me and 2 of my friends had. We were at a water stash. There's stretches in Pennsylvania where there's miles and miles where there's no water. And the locals, here's some more trail magic, they are so nice. They'll bring big coolers filled with water, and you can just fill up your water bottles right there. It's the bomb. It's amazing. It's so nice. So we were at some trail magic, filling up our waters, and the bear came out, and he was kind of like about maybe 100 feet away, right? Pretty close. And he was circling us. And he would come this way, and then he would come this way, and he was smelling the air, trying to see what we had. And so, of course, first we get the video because that's priority. And then we said, okay, well, it's time for you to go. So we started clapping our hands and go bear, get away from here, bear. And he kind of started begrudgingly walking away. We're like, okay, well, fine, he's gone. So we started talking with each other and sharing bear stories. And would you believe he came right back? That bear, he was very disobedient. So we had to go scare him off again. But it was fine. That was the worst of it. There was one bear, though, in the Smokies that did bite another one of the hikers. So that story is in the Smokers, the bear hang is very close to the privy. P.S. There's only 2 privies in the entire 80 miles of the Smokies. We have a lot of issues with that. Talk to me about the Smokies. I've got lots of issues. And so the bear she was deaf. She couldn't hear. All of the other hikers were saying, bear, don't get out of the privy. And privies have like this one had like a wall, right? And you open up the door and you close the door. And so she opens up the door and the bear's right there. She didn't know it, right? And so the bear sees her bag of toiletries, thinking this is food. So the bear lunges towards the bag, thinking it's food. She turns her back. P.S. Never turn your back on a bear. She turns her back, and the bear bites her in the butt instead of grabs the bag. Oh. And so she was the only bear person encounter on the trail, at least when I was there. Yeah. Yeah, but she's fine, and we live to talk about it. And the trail gossip is alive and well. We all knew about the bear story. So in addition to all of that, there was lots of river crossings and stuff, so that was pretty scary. There was one gentleman, there was a state of emergency in the state of Virginia and New York. And this guy named Steady Eddie passed away. And he was crossing, he slipped, and he hit his head, and he never survived. And then there was another friend of mine not a friend of mine, actually a friend of a friend, right? We're all friends on the trail. In the 100-mile wilderness, he got caught. It was really bad. We had a hurricane, and then 2 days later, we had another flood that came. So it was ground was already saturated already, and then we got hit with 2 more days of really hard rain. So all the rivers were just raging. And this guy was trying to cross, and sometimes there's ropes, but it's up to your waist, and it's very fast. He slipped, and he got caught into one of those eddies. So you know how it goes over and it pins you, and the water kind of pins you down. So there was another hiker there who got like a big stick and had to pop him out and saved his life. Yeah. So if you see a river crossing, take it seriously. And the good news is that this app that I was telling you about that is the GPS tracker, it gave you workarounds. And so there was several stream crossings that I avoided just to be safe. Unfortunately, it added miles to it, which I wasn't so happy about. But I didn't want to risk my life either. It wasn't worth it. So, okay, so everything big, audacious goals, just take it one step at a time, right? You've got your friends, you've got the stuff that keeps you happy, you're enjoying the process, and it's hard, but you're still committed to your why and what you're doing, and just one day at a time, that's it. So this is me climbing Katahdin. You'll be impressed at my climbing skills. Thank you. For a novice, I'm going to take whatever I can get, but this is me. It's just, this is how you work it, just literally one step at a time.
Let's just hope I don't do you fall in the universe.
Is it pretty?
It's really good.
Now you guys would probably just beep, 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 right up it, wouldn't you? You wouldn't? Okay, well, that makes me feel better. I was like, what the hell? But this guy who's videoing, he actually helped me out a lot. It's great.
That's how you do it. Nicely done.
Woohoo! So just take it one step at a time. You can do anything, really. You just got to be patient. Know it's going to be hard. Don't be afraid of the challenges. And then you get to the top, and you finished, and you just hiked 2,200 miles. Actually, 2198.4. So, yeah. But and I'll leave you with this. Just remember that when you have these big goals, right, you achieve this goal. And what is very common is for people to have this bit of depression. Now you achieve the goal, now what? And you'll get this too when you graduate. You had 4 years of your life, you were like completely structured and planned, and now you're like, oh my gosh, I have to life now.
No.
It's weird.
It's terrifying.
It's terrifying. And it's a very real thing.
Uh-huh.
And whenever people get big goals, sometimes it's a little depressing because it's the process that gets you there. So just remember that it's just a chapter, and don't be afraid of it, right? Don't be afraid of that anxiety. It's very normal. You're not weird. You're not alone. And just recognize, honor it, celebrate it, you know, make your albums, make all of your, you know, scrapbooks, go talk to your, you know, alma mater, you know, and do these kinds of things. But that's it. It's a chapter. and move on to your next chapter and look forward to starting the whole process over again, getting, setting your big audacious goal, getting outside of your comfort zone, being willing to look like an idiot. And I looked like an idiot, right, when I walked up to that campsite. Finding friends, making your friends, they'll tell you how to do it. Finding and savoring those beautiful moments and finding the joy in the process. Recognizing it's hard, it's okay, but just take it one step at a time and you will make it to the end. You will, you always will. Just don't give up. Don't be part of that 75%. You can be part of that 25% that succeeds.
Dr. Kelly is saying, I wish I was there to agree with all of this. Don't be afraid.
Go Dr. Kelly. Dr. Weeks.
Oh, Dr.
Weeks,
Dr. Weeks. I'm reading the new.
So I've got a couple other slides, but I'll take some questions because I try to anticipate what you guys might ask. Any questions for you guys? Yeah.
On average, how many miles a day was it?
So it changed, right? So at the very beginning, I didn't hike ever, right? So, and then suddenly I've got this huge backpack. So most people train on the job and you're doing 8 miles a day, then 10 miles a day, then 12, and you kind of work your way up. By the time I hit Virginia, I was doing solid 20 miles a day, sometimes 30. Right? I got my trail legs, I got strong, my pack got lighter, and the days got longer. So I was able to really hit some big miles. I was able to continue on with those big miles because the train was pretty nice, and we also had those long days until we got to Vermont. Days got shorter, and I'll be honest with you, it just got hard. And when I got to New Hampshire, I got down to like less than 10 miles a day. And when I got to Maine, the beginning part of Maine, I was like, there was one day where I hiked, I was sweating for, I think it was like 10 or 12 hours that day. And I think I did 4.7 miles. It was exhausting, but you can see how slow it is, right? So you're not cruising. So on an average, I took 5.5 months. I took 31 rest days, which are called zeros. And quite a few Neros, which are not quite zero. You do some mileage, but it's not big miles that day, and which is a lot. Most people do, especially if you're younger, you can do maybe 14 zeros every 2 weeks or so. I zeroed about once a week, and then I had some extra days to recover from when I had the norovirus and when I had the asthma exacerbation. So all told, I averaged 16 and a half. From the beginning to the end. Yeah, 16 and a half.
We have a question on the live. Were there other women hiking alone?
Yeah, quite a few. I don't know what the statistic is. I can't wait. But us women, we represent. Yeah, there's lots of us badass ladies out there. It was awesome. Yeah.
And Sir Stops Lot says you were still crushing it in Vermont.
Oh, he's my guy. That's where I met him, was in the beginning of Vermont. Yeah, we love him.
Is it particularly scary besides?
Yeah, the medical issues were really scary. And the reason is because I quit my job, I didn't have health insurance. I mean, I had health insurance, but let's face it, our United States health system is not good. So both when I had norovirus, I really needed an IV. I was severely dehydrated and I needed to go to the hospital and get an IV, but I didn't want to pay for it. And when I had the asthma exacerbation, I should have called the ambulance. I should have called 911, but I didn't want to pay for it. It would have been thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So I risked my health because I was afraid of the money, and that is scary. That is really scary. Those were the 2 times where I was like, I felt really vulnerable and alone and afraid. But there were several other times where I can think of the Mahoosic area, which is the very beginning of Maine. If you look on you start in Gorham and then you move north and you enter the first part of Maine, and it's a real brutal section. It's the hardest mile on the Appalachian Trail, but that whole section was really tough. And I was by myself, which was not smart. And I was doing some serious scrambles in very unsafe areas where several of my friends actually fell like 30 feet And, you know, they had friends to help them, and I was risking doing this by myself without friends. And I stopped that. I started to hike with friends through those dangerous sections. So that was not smart. And I kind of had this will to live as opposed to die on the side of a mountain with nobody there. So yeah. Yeah.
I was actually curious. How did it feel like hiking like as a female?
You know, a lot of people ask me, did you bring a gun? Did you bring any mace? You know, did you do anything? I will have to say that, you know, there are some people that are on the trail that aren't through hikers. There are some people who are homeless who will use that as, especially at the beginning, like in the southern area, you get into that. But there's one guy in Vermont that was like that. And then there's like, you know, every once in a while, some of the locals will come into the campsites and they'll steal food. That happened. Was it a local or was it a homeless person? Don't know, but they stole a lot of food. So that kind of stuff does happen and did happen when I was on the trail. But I never felt afraid because I was surrounded by so many good people. So it was like, I feel more worried walking downtown DC. And honestly, it's a really safe city, but it is more risky to walk downtown DC. And, you know, knowing that I'm going to get my car mugged or you know, broken into, or I could get mugged, or there's carjackings now that are big. Here in Memphis is the same thing. It is much more scary here in Memphis than it is on trail. So I just didn't even worry about it, honestly. I just believed. Yeah. You can do it for sure. Yeah, for sure you can do it. Just rely on your instincts. And I think the biggest thing is that as women, we tend to please, right? That's just our nature. We're taught that, you know, from bad cartoons when we grew up. I think your generation has much better cartoons than we did. But we were taught to always be the damsel in distress, to always let somebody else think for us. But we got to unprogram that in us. And we need to remember that we are smart. We are so smart. We get it. We are survivors. And if your instincts tell you this doesn't feel good, you follow that instinct and you keep hiking. And or you find somebody who's bigger than you and hike with them, right? That, and you know, it just trust your instinct. Don't try to give them a benefit of the doubt. Don't let them talk you out of your fear. Don't do that. Listen, your gut knows, and trust it. It will always, always protect you. Yes, ma'am.
So we have another couple of questions, but I'll just start with one of them. Benelli Grace said, truly inspirational. What did you eat and snack on regularly, and how often did you need to replenish?
Absolutely. Great question. I was looking for that. Okay. All right. So here's what I ate. All right. So on the right is the dehydrated meals. Have you seen these? Mm-hmm. Okay. They're pretty good. Yeah. They're not too bad until you've eaten 1,000 of them. But on the right, this one is sausage scramble. I tried to get a lot of high protein as much as I could. And I had this small MSR fuel container. P.S. Don't get the big ones because it's just extra weight. You can always resupply on trail. And then I had one pot of water and I had one spoon, and that was pretty much my meal. I would go to the stream and collect my water and filter it, and then that's what I used. So that was usually what I had in the evenings. And then after it got cold and it started, like, hot meals didn't really sound good to me. It got really, really hot, especially when you got into Pennsylvania. Then I switched to cold soaking. I sent all my, because this is 1.5 pounds. That's a lot of weight. So I sent all that home and I started cold soaking. So Talenti jars, you know, Talenti the ice cream, best cold soaking jar ever. All the hikers use it. And it is a terrible crime. We have to eat the ice cream first to use it.
No.
It's the price we pay. So this is what I've got here. This is protein powder. I just got so sick of it though. I started just throwing it away. I got nut butter, and these are like dates and fruit and nuts. This is oatmeal, and then this is some flax seeds that kind of has some flavors just to add it a little bit of twist. And I would put that into my my Talenti jar, fill it up with water, mix it up, and then let it soak overnight. When I woke up the next morning, it was really pretty good breakfast, about 1,000 calories. Yeah. So, and then during the day, I ate a lot of snacks. As an athlete, as an Ironman athlete, I see a couple Ironman athletes out there, Shannon and Nicholas for sure. There is the gels and those kinds of things. You need to have something that digests quickly, because your stomach can't really digest it, right? Because all your blood is over here. Your blood's not in your stomach. The opposite is true when you're hiking. Your blood is in your stomach, and you do need and want to digest something. So what I found is those gels, they actually are heavy and not satisfying, whereas just the opposite in Ironman. So I needed snacks, like proper snacks. So I tried to like mix it up and think about my palate. So some was lemon. I did a lot of the lemon bars, a lot of protein bars. I did a lot of beef jerky. I did a lot of sweet snacks, a lot of gels, like chewy things. Those Welch's grape juice things, those are good. Yeah, and the key is a variety, because you get taste fatigue real easy. So.
How much weight and how many days worth do you carry at a time?
So in the winter, I was down to 25 pounds, including food and water. And in the summer, I was down to 19 pounds, including food and water. I got to the point, at first I took too much food, right? Because you go out in the wilderness, you're out there for 5 to 7 days. So you are like, I get really crazy. Like, I only want to bring what I'm going to eat, and that's it. But for the most part, when you're out of the beginning in Georgia up to Virginia, and then really New Hampshire to Maine, those are really the areas where you need the bigger carries. In between, you can actually get to town a lot quicker. And so you're able to like get out and get a shower, thank God. Do your laundry, thank God. And you only really need to carry 3 days of food during that time. Yeah. Yeah.
What was your water strategy? Like 2 liters, 3 liters, water bottles, hydration bladders?
Same thing. It's the same thing. It depends. So there were several sections of the trail where it was really dry. Virginia was really dry, which is surprising, right? I'm really surprised. But there was like 15-mile stretches where there was no water. And Pennsylvania is famously dry. So, and then when you get into the drier months, like it hasn't been raining, which never happened, but there were a couple times. So those are the times where you need longer carries. And so I would do 3 liters for the long carries. For the most part, though, I would probably do just shy of 2 liters, and that was enough. Yeah. Yeah.
You can keep asking questions. Arizona 2000 NN, did you say that was your friend Nicholas?
That's Nicholas, yeah.
He asked, how much weight did you lose between start and finish?
Oh, God. I wish it was more. Those guys, what is it with you guys? Seriously. The guys were like, oh, it's just awful. I can't keep weight on. It's awful. And you're like, I hate you. I really hate you. You really make me so mad. And they're like looking like skeletons, and they're like emaciated. And us ladies were just like, what gives? For real, it's not fair. And especially for
He's
like
laughing.
And then when you're like, I'm postmenopausal, right? So the hormones, it's real. It's awful. Holds on to all that fat. It's just rude. Rude. Oh my God. So I probably lost a little bit of the baby fat that it didn't need to have anyway. But honestly, I just got toned and fit, but I didn't lose like miraculously great pounds like those guys did. So it's not a weight loss strategy. Yeah, how was the transition back to normal life? That's a really good question. For me, and I think there's a big difference in a lot of the folks that I hiked with. So I'll start with what my experience was, and then what I see from other folks. So my experience is I'm tired. Like I have this deep, has anybody got COVID here? You know that deep, deep waves of tired that comes and you're just like, oh my God, I just need a nap right now. That's the kind of tired that you get. And then you get this hiker hobble, I swear to you, and I still have it. So I've been a month and a week since I summited, and I still have all of that, but it's less and less, and it's getting better. And then in terms of psychologically, like I love my life. It's such a good life, and I can't wait to go back to work. I really do. And I'm approaching work with a new focus and a renewed kind of vigor, if you will. Like, I really can't wait to make a difference again in the scientific community, and that's really exciting for me. Like, I have a clarity of focus. Now, that's me, and I'm also 53, like I told you, right? So I'm experienced, and I've had many different chapters in my life, and I'm not afraid to reinvent, okay? There's a lot of folks that are on the trail that are in their 20s and 30s. They were all my buddies, right? They're like your age, like, you know, I can hang, I'm good, I'm cool. and so a lot of them, like, this was their thing. This was their experience. And so they're going, and that's why it's really important for me to impress upon you guys, this was their chapter and this is their identity now. And so it's harder for them to go back into this life because they really didn't have it really established, and they're just forming that identity. And so when they go back, they're like, wait a minute, I knew who I was clear on the trail, and I long for that feeling of security and knowledge back on trail. So those are the folks I think who are having the harder time to reintegrate. And so the lesson to learn from this is, don't be afraid to close a chapter, start another one. It is I really can't emphasize how important it is for you, because you're going to go through it. That's just life. It's just life. Yeah.
Okay, I have two that I'm gonna combine.
You're so good at this. Thank you for doing that.
Cerrito70 said, what's next for you? And then Benelli Grace said, what is next on your bucket list? So I think those kind of go together.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
what's next for you?
Yeah, I think I like that a lot. So, you know, I'm doing a lot of this speaking. A lot of people ask me about the book. Like, everybody's talking about, when is your book coming out? When is your book coming out? I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do the book. So I don't know. Like, this is my big, like, crazy, like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's me with the pearl earrings walking up to the campsite, right? Like, how do you pitch a tent? Like, for me, like, how do you write a book? So who knows? We'll see. But I think it's going to be a little bit longer for me to get there. Like, that's not an immediate term. It's kind of a long-term thing. My immediate term, I can't wait to get back to work. And so I've updated my CV. I just had my professional photos taken again. And actually, starting next week, I'm going to start networking and getting back out there and looking for my next big thing. So, yeah.
Does anyone else online have some questions? Feel free to send them in. Anyone here? I'm going to give it another few seconds, but it looks
Let
like
me
we're
add one more plea to all of you, and to all of you here on the phone today as well. Do volunteer. Get active in the Appalachian Trail or with your local trail and your local hiking clubs. I cannot tell you how much trail magic is. It's amazing. And then being out there to help maintain the trails and getting involved. We are absolutely 100% dependent on you. And if you can do it, it's fun for you. You get to practice, you're outside. I mean, how bad can it be? It's so much fun. And it's really necessary. That's what keeps the cycle going. So if you walk away, that you know, add that to your list of goals as you move up and onward in your lives. Yeah.
very cool. I see Dr. Weeks is asking what's on your bucket list for next, but that's kind of what you answered. But is there anything
she's
like
probably asking like the big thing?
Yeah, what's the big thing? Yeah, what's the big thing that's coming next?
I knew when I saw that big sign, I had no idea. I knew like I was like Ironman, and then I was lost and I was frustrated and doors were closing and I felt out of my body. I felt like I lost my soul, right? And I got to that place and then I saw the map on the wall and it was like boom, and 2 months later I was on trail.
Okay. Wow.
Right? 2 months later. So my next big thing will probably be something like that. It will probably be like, I'll get to that point where I'm frustrated. This isn't working. I need a seismic shift in my life. And then I'll figure out, like, does my body still work? How exactly? And it will have something to do with being outside. It will have something to do with pushing my body because I love it. And it'll be something like that, but we'll see. I have done the rim to rim to rim, so I'll probably do that, and that's a short-term thing. And there's another hike across Maryland, which I plan to do. My friend Shannon, she did it a couple years ago, and she doesn't know it yet, but she's going to do it with me next year.
We have one more. How did you feel when you finished and you knew you were going to make it? Was it anticlimactic? What was the feeling when you finished that trail?
That's great. Who asked that one?
SAS, Slow and Steady.
Oh, SAS.
And also, before I forget, Cerrito said, so sorry I couldn't make it to Memphis this weekend, but would love to see if you're ever in LR. I'm assuming that's Little Rock.
Little Rock.
I'm so proud of you.
Oh, Sarah. Oh, I love my girl. She's so sweet. And SAS, Slow and Steady, is SAS, were you 78? Is that right? 78? How old are you?
It's going to take
He's going to tell me. Yes.
It's going to take a minute.
We're on a little bit of black. He is slow and steady. And he is an example of who we all should be, right? He just kept going. And even though all these youngsters were like, zoom, let's go fast, zoom. And he was just like, you know what? I'm going to do my pace. I'm going to hike my hike. And that's what he did. And he ended up hurting his knee, so he had to get off because of his knee. But he's going to come back. So to answer your question, Sass, love you. You summit and you have all these emotions, right? It's a mix of, oh my God, I did it, with all these like 23, 20, 30 years old, like, oh my God, like I've still got it. This is so cool. And just, all of the hardships, all of the mud, all of the smells, all of the raw, vulnerable feelings, it all was worth it when I saw that sign. It was an amazing sight. But then there was a bit of sadness because I'm going to miss these beautiful views. I'm going to miss having 20 miles to do that day. I'm going to miss all my friends and this cool vibe situated where you're just like, everybody's your friend. You make friendships so fast and people are just amazing. So I'm going to miss all of that. So it's a mix. And then when you're finished with the top, there's no helicopters. There's no, limousine who's going to pick you up. And you have to go down that mountain. So you do have like 5 trails to choose from. And the trail that I chose was the easy one. Honey, it was not easy. There's nothing about Katahdin that's easy. So it goes straight down. It's all scree, which means it's all loose rock. So that means that I was sliding on my butt because I was scared to death. Because if you hit like a big boulder and you think it's going to be stable, you hit it with your feet. And that thing goes down. And you're like, oh my God, I'm going to go down with it. It's awful. And so I told my sister-in-law who lives, and my brother who lives in Maine, my parents were there. They came to see me at the finish, but I still had to get down off that mountain. And I told my sister-in-law, I'm taking the easy trail down. You can pick me up. It's because it's only 10 miles. 10 miles that day. That's it. Easy. So 3 o'clock, pick me up. So 3 o'clock comes. 5 o'clock comes. The sun starts setting. 6 o'clock comes. I am still out there hiking, and it's getting dark. The last hour was pitch black. Luckily, I brought my headlamp. P.S. You want to put on your headlamp at the very last possible moment because you have better depth perception when you rely on your rods and cones. The second you put on fake light, then you lose your depth perception. It's actually more dangerous. So it's weird, but it's true. So hike as long as you possibly can without the headlamp. And I didn't get off that mountain until 7 o'clock that evening. It took me 12 hours. Most people who are very agile, like you guys are, took about 10. So I was an extra special case, thinking that the easy trail was easy. It was not. And it was an empty, desolate, dark parking lot. And that was it. There was no collection of people at the end. There was no victory party. There was nothing. And it was a little depressing. I'm not going to lie. It was a little depressing. But having my parents there and having my little brother and his son and his wife was really made it my own special. But if I didn't have them, I think I would have felt very empty. Yeah.
Nicholas has asked, how about that tattoo?
Oh yes, we're doing that. I'm going to get warrior right here.
Okay, very nice, very nice.
Yeah.
Did you keep a written journal while you're?
I did. I've got a blog. Yeah. Do you want to write this down? My blog is goboldly.life. Yeah. So I started about 150 miles in, and then I stopped about, I think it was 1650, because quite frankly, my brain just got brain fog because I was so malnourished. So, but I'll keep posting, and if you subscribe, then when I post more stuff on there, because there's still a lot of stories I want to write, then I'll send out a note to folks. So, but go to the very end. There's like, I think I did 70 posts, but you have to dig for it. It's kind of clunky. So dig for it and go to the very beginning. Go boldly. Go boldly.life. Bold. Go boldly.
Perfect. And for everyone on the live stream, I've just typed that in and pinned it so that you can find it on your own.
You're so good.
No problem.
You're great. All right. Well, it's been such a pleasure. I love you guys. It's so nice being back on campus. I just really wish you all, you have your lives ahead of you, and you're going to set so many big, audacious goals. Life is so full of so many amazing chapters, and just embrace every single one of them. Life is so good, and I'm just so thrilled for all of you about what's to come. So,
great.
Cheers to you.
Yay! There we go. We're gonna flip this. You can say your goodbyes.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Oh, look at all these people. Oh my God, look at all these. Can you keep these? Are you able to keep
so
them?
I'm going to put it as here. I'm gonna.
And can you record it?
Yes.
Okay.
So